industries. Now what we see as possible is a convergence of those industries, and it's possible for two reasons. One is because of technology, the other is because of science, and the third, actually, most important reason is because of you as a patient. So the power lies in the patient to make the choices, take the responsibility. It's your epigenetics that you have charge of. You know, the genetics are the deck of cards you're given, and the epigenetics is how you play the cards. So we all have the power to control our epigenetics, and with science, we have the power of our own cells to actually heal and cure ourselves. So now we're talking about not a health and wellness industry, not a disease and treatment industry, but it's one industry, and it's called life. It's our life. So I think it's a really amazing time when all of this comes together, where we have the potential to live a longer and higher quality life and have potential cures. So I just want to open it up to the audience and see if you guys have anything to add or any questions for the panelists.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the question about doctors versus devices. So I think there could be doctors behind Fred's device or Jim's device, and they would be doing consultative kind of coaching to the patients. The device is measuring, but there may be metrics or the changing in metrics that would be puzzling for the user or patient. So the doctors could be the added consultative aspect to their device. Yeah, I think that's where the future. So you could have the genomics, you could have this measurement, you could have behavioral measurement devices coming together. So doctors become less reactive and perhaps more proactive behind these devices.
Well, I think the mediation and involvement of physicians are very important. And I think, like what you said, particularly if they change what, their mannerisms and learn the new techniques of health, not just sickness. And that's happening. In fact, I felt so strongly about it, we just acquired a company that is in telemedicine. And a lot of these procedures could be done better, 90% of it overnight. They're using technology to help. The other thing that you brought up, very critical, and I think doctors could really help. That is behavioral change. You can say all these things, but if the animal doesn't want to do it, it just doesn't happen. And literally, an animal brain that we have is just being trained a certain way. Your mind has to interfere to change it. You have to do 1,000 repetitions. Every morning you come down for breakfast, you so automatically eat what you eat. If you want to change it, your mind now suddenly has to intervene and change that. And if you do 1,000 of it, that becomes the new paradigm. So these habit changes are the biggest work that we did at Juvenile has been in this change agency work. So we have created a lot of electronics to help them. These cell phones are fantastic in people's pocket. For the first time, we can do some things about it. And in a matter of 10 or 15 years, we all got used to it. We have all the functionality, we know what to do. So we are trying to change your habit. And again, slowly, you can't do it very fast. You do it very fast, it kicks back, it doesn't happen. It's a little bit at a time. The physician, the problem of the medical system today is that it doesn't have a trend analysis. You go see the doctor now, you see it's 3 months, 5 months from now. The 2 points doesn't make a trend. We don't know if you're getting more nervous or less nervous, or doing exercise or whatever. So having these wearables, having around the clock help with you, we're hoping that helps, and it's actually shown it helps. So a lot of really new good stuff is coming on the scene, not only just in medicine, but assistive things in technology that would really help.
Anybody else?
I'd just like to make a few observations from listening to you. The first is I think it's very dangerous to focus on genetics because there are, it's really a three-dimensional problem in the body. You have the immune system, genetics, and the microbiome. Each one can alter the other. So your microbiome can alter your genes can alter your immune system. So I think it's better to look at things as a whole in that respect. The next observation I'd like to make is that your body, over the billions of years that it's been evolving, has amazing self-repair mechanisms within it. For example, you have 10 to the 14 cells in your body. Every day there are 10 to the 19 repairs in each cell on your DNA. So, and there are backup systems to backup systems to backup systems that repair. You're right in that stress distracts these repair systems from working properly, which then causes other problems. The third point I'd like to make, which is an observation, is from what you've been discussing, is that cancers and things like that start in the people's 20s and 30s, not in their 60s and 70s. They just take a long time to develop. And so perhaps focusing on children at school and teaching them these disciplines early on can make their future lives more healthy. And they will know themselves on how to deal with these things, rather than when you're 40 or 50, you already have cancer that's developing, and if you're in the medical business, you don't want to find somebody who has multiple sclerosis who's a middle stage or late stage, because there's nothing you can do. I mean, early stage in anything you can perhaps repair, but late stage multiple sclerosis, late stage Alzheimer's, it's over.
That's a really good point. And I know doing work in China, for instance, China is big on preventative health and ensuring that babies are as healthy as possible, because it's also better outcomes the earlier you start, and it's a lot less expensive. So it's important to start early.
We're seeing almost the birth of a whole new epidemic right now, starting in our schools. It's called vaping. You all hear about that.
Yeah.
But every high school and middle school in your community now is a place where at some point during the day, there are kids in the bathroom vaping. They have no idea that they're dealing with nicotine and addiction and things that lead to more severe problems. It's hard for me as a healthcare person to believe we're observing this and not acting more aggressively. So education in schools is a very big part of what we do. I think you could be more about that.
Bill?
Hi. So, in 1849, Morton introduced anesthesia, and at the same time, Lister published sanitation of instruments. But yet, in 9 months, anesthesia was adapted throughout the world, and it took 9 years for people to start to sanitize things. Same thing with Fleming. Discovering penicillin, we then looked at everything as an existential threat. So how do we then change these human conditions when we don't have the capability or patience? Just like with climate change, we look at weather, we don't understand bigger picture things, or as a society as a whole. How do we change that underlying human nature that's always been present like that?
And I can just comment, when I think about, and I'm not a physician, but when I think about the practice of medicine, just the last 20 years, as we've seen these enormous systems develop, hospitals and healthcare systems and medical groups, with all the pluses and minuses of corporate medicine, one huge step forward is there are best practices, there are evidence-based standards, and that's how care is expected to be practiced in those settings. So there has been the huge disadvantage all these decades of the private practice model of, I'm a physician, what I want to do is what I want to do, and it's sacred. I started my career at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where at the time, I think less than 2% of the patients were on clinical protocols. So here was the place that was leading the world, we thought, in cancer research. But 98% of the patients coming through their halls were not part of any kind of studies. That's no longer accepted in systems, that kind of independence. So that's a little step forward. It doesn't solve it.
Anyone else? We'll soon break for food and drinks. We'll continue this conversation over drinks. One more.
Okay. Regarding the, what you call the long things which...
Telomeres.
Yeah. Thank you. The question is... memory. The question is, lifestyle affects how long the end lasts. But my question is, as people age, is it inevitable they get shorter and shorter? Like a doctor told me, Frank, everybody has to die eventually. How do you relate those two thoughts?
Yeah, okay.
So we can
First
delay
of all,
it.
there's really a very interesting, there's the compression of morbidity curve that was done at Stanford, which is very interesting. If you look at it, the kid in the United States is born till the age of 30, grows to be the strongest. The chi or prana, whatever you want to call it, that's what we have the most when we're 30. And in the United States, we lose about 1% a year of that chi. So by the time, let's say you're 80, you lost 50% of your power, which you're aging into all that. It's very precipitous drop. If you follow these better food eating and stress management and all that, you don't drop that fast. So what happens is that it creates a delta between average aging, bad aging. Look, I go to really very good elder care companies, so the public and all that stuff. I could see physically that these, what these poor people were going through. It's terrible to get old in this culture in terms of the aging process, and then particularly in the last 10 or 20 years, you're dying slowly. You don't really die in 2 weeks like the old time, somebody who's really died. Anyway, the bottom line is that all the things we discovered here, whether it is interventional by taking a gene out and putting a good gene in, or doing this wonderful stuff for insulin, or if it is through lifestyle change, we're trying to influence that drop. So it drops slowly, and then you live longer, you live better quality, and then you drop dead in 2 or 3 weeks as opposed to 2 or 3 years or maybe 20 years.
We're not going to live forever.
No, but I mean, nobody does.
Would you want to?
No.
At least you can live a higher quality of life for longer. And I think that's really what we're getting to with all these companies. So a couple things, a little break for food and drinks, but you'll see sheets on your chairs. If you want to continue this conversation with any of these companies, please take a look at the sheets and check the ones that you either want to get more information from or have one-on-one conversations. And you can have each of these guys for an hour or more if you'd like to find out more about their companies. So take some time to do that, and we'll continue the conversation over drinks and food. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.